Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 2, verses 1 through 10, remembrance of mothers. So many mothers come to my mind. My mother, first of all, come to my mind, who gave me a life in this world and as well as raised 3 boys. And those who raised 3 boys probably know that you have to be a tough mother, particularly when we were so close in our ages. She had a hard time in the beginning when we were young, but she was tough. And because of that, we are thankful, even though we didn't like it at that time. We are thankful now when we look back and say where we are now is only because how my mother and my parents raised us up. And I know many of your stories are very similar or the same. Because our mothers are so valuable in our lives, we cannot replace that person in our lives with anything else. And another mother, when I preach, come to my mind is the mother of Jesus, Mary. And then Moses' mother is a mother who always comes to my mind, even though she's talked about only very briefly during the birth of this mother, and then we see only randomly here and there about her mother showing up in the story. But that mother is a very unique mother who stood up against the king's orders to kill all the babies, and she decided to take the risk of her own life to protect that baby from danger and death, because the king ordered to kill all the Hebrew babies born during that time, and Moses was one of them, destined and sentenced to death. But because of that mother, his life was protected, and he was taken by that king's daughter and raised him in that very palace where he placed the orders to kill the babies. Believe it or not, how many of the mothers that you know or you have got paid from the government to feed or nurse your own baby? Moses is the only one that I know. Moses' mother is the only one who got paid from the government's treasury to nurse her own baby. That's how God worked out in the life of Moses. We see that Moses was left in the river by his mother, and they watched, his sister and mother watched from the side, and lo and behold, the king's daughter came, the Pharaoh's daughter came to the shore of the river to take a bath and saw this baby in a little basket. And she took him, and she had kindness to that baby, and she looked for somebody to take care of that baby as a babysitter to take care of them. And guess what? It was his own mother who became that babysitter, who got paid from the Pharaoh's treasury to raise Moses up. So that is the kind of special mother is Jochebed. That's the name that Moses had. This month of May is the time that we celebrate our mothers every year, and the month of May is in so many things intertwined in our lives, in my family. Several birthdays, including my wife's birthday this month, and her sister and brother, and my son. I mean, there's probably close to a dozen people's birthday come in this month in May. And then Mother's Day also. So that is a very busy month. For some reason, that is the month that we decide to honor our mothers, and we honor them today as well in our service. Our mothers are so unique. Like, I don't have to tell him that. A little boy was found lost in a supermarket, in a store, and he began to call out, "Sally, Sally, Sally." And that was his mother's name. And she came quickly to him and said, "Honey, you shouldn't call me Sally. I am your mother. Call me Mother." And he said, "Yes, I know. But the store is full of mothers. So if I call you Mother, how many mothers are going to be responding?" He was trying So this world is full of mothers, but each of us has only one mother. I know there are people, women like that, who were like mothers to us. So when we take this time to honor their memories, we ought to be thankful to God as well, because God takes care of us as a mother does. The cartoon character Dennis the Menace told his friend Joey, if you happen to read the cartoons, Dennis was talking to his friend Joey that, I don't know what I'll do when my mom gets too old to tie my shoes. That's mothers are. And they are there no matter how old we get, we are still their babies. And my mom is getting over 90 years old, can see, can hear, but whenever she calls me as her son, nothing else. Her baby. Doesn't matter how old I get. And I have my own grandchildren. So it doesn't matter how old you get, your mothers are very special to us. They are the love bond of the family. That's what I usually call them. They become the communication network. When brothers fight, when cousins fight, and when husband and wife fight in your children's family, the mothers become the love bonds. They are the go-between to connect all of these broken links, and they do that in a very unique way that no other dad or nephew or uncle can do. And they are the ones who make the home lively, and I don't have to tell you that, because that is what happens in our family. When the mom is away, everybody is lonely, you know that? Like a little boy was talking to his friend on the phone. My mom is in the hospital. My twins brothers Roxy and Billy, and my sister Sally and the dog and me and my dad are all home alone. That's what the loneliness when the mother is in the hospital. It doesn't matter how many people you have around. When you are away from your mother, you feel that loneliness, because mothers are so much present all the time in our lives. So the Mother's Day is an honorable day that we have dedicated to honor our mothers, but started in, believe it or not, in a Methodist church by a mother who took the time to get together all the mothers in the community. She started something called the Mothers Workday Clubs in the 1850s during the Civil War. And it was in West Virginia, in some city, I believe, some remote city in West Virginia, they started it. She organized these Mother's Day clubs that became very active during the Civil War when both sides were fighting. These clubs were actually caring for the people who were hurt. And her name, Anna Jarvis, she organized the Mothers' Friendship Days to bring together families that are broken apart because of the fight during that time. And eventually that became the Mother's Day celebration in May. Her home in West Virginia, in Grafton actually, the city name, is now made a national landmark if you want to go visit sometime there. So that is how it all started in this country. In this case that we read today about Moses' mother Jochebed, in Exodus chapter 2 we read, by all human standards, Moses never had a chance. He was destined to die when he was born. Not only was he born as a slave, but he had a death sentence on him as a baby when he was born. When he was 3 months old, he was placed by his own mother in the river, not knowing what will happen to that boy, and left him in the basket to flow down in the river. And the rest of the story, like I said, King's daughter eventually became the deliverer of the people of Israel. That King's daughter took him and raised him, and he became the deliverer of Israel from the bondage of Egypt. and you know the rest of the story. Her deep faith in God left her to make a hard decision to either leave the boy to the soldiers at the time to kill, or leave him in the hands of God, place him in a basket, floating him in the river. And she decided to do that. She is not going to give up the baby to be killed. She was not afraid of breaking the Pharaoh's law or the order at that time. And because we read that, we heard while we were reading the scripture that she saw that the child was beautiful, and she was not afraid of the king's edict. She not only had faith, but she also had the courage to stand up. And Moses became courageous and had a life of faith in God, I believe mostly because of his mother's teaching and also the coaching that he did. Where somewhere I read that faith is better caught than taught. The children catch the faith from their mothers and fathers more than teaching. They are being caught on a daily living in our lives. And a courageous mother brings courageous children. Jochebed acted according to her calling because she knew that this baby was special and need to be protected. And Moses became the powerful deliverer and the leader of the people of God to lead them out of the bondage from Egyptians. And also she was a woman of faith, she was a woman of courage, and also she was a woman of hope and vision. She finds that baby as not ordinary baby. She envisioned a very different future for him. And we just read that he was a special child. That's what we read in that passage that we read for our reading today. And many versions of the Bible says differently. King James Version said she found him as a proper child, an unusual child in another version, a godly child in another one. But she knew that this boy was different. God had a different plan for Moses. And so she decided that she's not going to follow the same path as the rest of the boys did during that time, and chose a different path for Moses. Jochebed hoped for a different future for her son, unlike other Hebrew women did. There are several mothers like that who hoped for a different future for their children. Hannah, the mother of Samuel, Prophet Samuel, is another example. Samuel was raised to grow in God's temple. And then Mary, the mother of Jesus, as I said, had different vision and hope for her child. The world may be full of destruction and danger that you and I have to face every day. And that's where we raise our children. Drugs and alcohol and hatred and evil things are happening all around us. But we see the vision of great mothers throughout history raising great sons with a different path. The mothers choose to have their children a different path, not to follow the crowd if it is not the right path. I remember Susanna Wesley, the mother of John and Charles Wesley. She had 19 children. But if you are alarmed by 19 children, and she probably spent about half of her life in pregnancy. But when I read that, it is not unusual. Her mother had 25 children, and she was the youngest of the 25 children. So remember a mother who raised 25 children, but in those days many of them would not survive. Like in John Wesley's case, Susanna Wesley had 19 children, including John Wesley and Charles Wesley. Out of the 19, 9 of her children died as infants. 4 of the children who died were twins. And then a babysitter accidentally smothered a child. And anyway, there were only like 8 children left when she died. But she had a vision for her children, no matter how many children did they have, 19 or 25. Each of those mothers, Susanna Wesley and her mother, both had a history of raising the children uniquely in Christian faith. And we read in the stories of Susanna Wesley that she took the time to pray for each of her children every day, morning and in the evening, and name them one by one and call out in prayer. And John and Charles Wesley were the product of this woman of faith because she raised them in a different way rather than following the crowd. If you were to read the letters that Susanna Wesley wrote to John Wesley and Charles Wesley during their time here, you will marvel at her unique concern for each of them, their personalities and their problems, because the mothers are the ones who know those qualities of a person more than anybody else. The mothers will catch that right from their birth. You don't have to be a biological mother to be a mother. There have been many, many mothers who have been, many women who have been like mothers to us. We remember Barbara, who had been a mother, like a mother to many of us in our previous church that we attended. Even though she was a widower, she was the widower of a United Methodist minister. And after the death of her husband, in about a year, her only son in his 30s committed suicide. And she was left alone in this world, knowing not what her future might hold. Then she was shut up in her home for about a year in depression and fear and anxiety, and she refused to go to church. But somehow, after a year, in a time of a year, her sister encouraged her to go back to church, and she finally decided to come to the church that we attended, randomly, with no reason. And it was God's guidance for her to bring her in that church, because there were many people who were looking for a mother like that. And thankfully, we are thankful to her life, even though she passed away about 6 or 7 years ago. She was a mother to a whole crowd of people in our church. They call her mother Barbara. And when she died, she had a lot more children than she ever gave birth to. See, that's the kind of mothers that we see every day in our lives. Mothers can sometimes be a painful day for people when we remember today our mothers. Someone told me one time that when the pastor of his church said on Mother's Day that we should take a white flower to honor our mothers who have died and a red flower to honor our mothers who are still living, she said she didn't know what flower she had to take because her mom died when she was 6 years old and her father remarried. To those who desperately want to be parents but have been unable to do, this can be a confusing and a painful day. Or for those whose mothers passed away, or those who have painful memories of their mothers in many cases, this may be a painful day as well. But Mother's Day is a reminder of not only mother's love, but also the love of God, who is like a mother to us. Even when we falter, even when we fall down, when other people try to blame us, it is a mother, and God, like a mother, lifts us up, because the mother knows the weaknesses and the shortcomings of every one of her children. And God is like a mother to us, knowing us where we are and what condition we are in. When we fall down, He lifts us up like a mother does. As we celebrate and honor our mothers, let us remember the love and care of God like a mother, as He calls us by name. As a mother comforts her child, so too God comforts those who lament. We read that in Isaiah chapter 66. And we also read in chapter 46 of the same book, God carries us as a mother carries a child in her womb. Let us honor our mothers today by being thankful for their faith that we caught from them. And also let someone else catch that faith from us. That is how we can honor our mothers today. Not only the faith that we caught from them, but also that others can catch that faith from us. That is the greatest honor we can do to our mothers today. Let us give thanks to God for all of our mothers and pray for the continual blessings of God in their lives. Happy Mother's Day. God bless you.